I'm Alex, your host for today's episode. Let me introduce our guest for today, Dr. Kelly Fishman, owner of Strut Animal Mobility Specialists. Kelly, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Hi, Alex. I'm happy to be here to talk about dog fitness and health.
Absolutely. So let's get started with the basics here. What exactly is Strut Animal Mobility Specialists, and what do you guys do?
So I practice an area of veterinary medicine that is all about the physical body. So I jokingly call myself the dog body shop, where, you go to your regular veterinarian and they manage vaccines and they do some blood tests. They're checking for kidney and liver, all that internal organs. And then what I do is I do the outside. So I do dogs that are limping, slowing down because they're getting older, had back surgery and just are recovering from some type of surgery. So I'm helping their physical body recover or age better, or even just get stronger because they're a dog athlete.
And so this really encompasses animal rehabilitation under like that mobility specialist banner, right?
Yes, exactly. And in fact, if I was in the human realm, I'd be called my job would be, titles would be dog physical, therapist, but we can't say physical therapist in the animal world because that's a protected human term. So we call it rehabilitation.
Gotcha. And what exactly is animal rehabilitation? What does it really consist of?
So when I work with one of my patients, I have certain modalities to help pain. And when I think of managing pain, I do it, aside from just doing pain medication that you'd give every day to your dog in a little pill bottle. There's so many wonderful ways to manage pain. And we all know this as well as people. There's massage, there is acupuncture, there is chiropractic adjustments. There are simple things like heating pads and ice packs. So all those different things are ways that I can help manage pain in dogs and cats and horses and bunnies as well. All over different animals, the same tools that you'd use in a person. So rehabilitation is about providing pain management in different ways aside from just pills. And I also do things like help dogs move by teaching owners how to do exercises with their dog, teaching them how to do stretches to get their bodies moving and feeling good, because we know that how important exercise is for us, even when we're young. Staying strong and healthy has so many wonderful health benefits. And then as you age, maintaining that mobility. So I teach, the other part of rehabilitation is to teach pet parents how to do these exercises and maintain strength and balance and endurance with their pets.
And when I think of rehabilitation, and I guess to put it in human terms, physical therapy, right? I always think of, being with the fellas, playing baseball, somebody slides wrong, they break a leg, and then you have to go through the whole process of trying to rehab that leg so that way you can walk properly again. Is this something in the animal world that's only done after surgeries, or does it really kind of have a wide array of uses?
It definitely has a wide array of uses. So if that person, was one of my patients, I would actually try to talk to them as an athlete, what can we do to prevention? If you're either an official dog athlete doing things like agility or hunting or other types of dog sports, or if you're just the type of dog that on the weekend, you go to the beach for 2 hours and run around. Like that's actually considered a bit of an athlete because they're having to really expend a lot of like cardiovascular and muscle strength and to run on that beach. So those dogs are athletes. So I think about them, but then I also think about them after they get an injury and recovering from the surgery. And then, even as they age, most dogs are getting arthritis as they age, and that's one of the biggest contributing factors to slowing down and having pain. Also some of our dog breeds are also predisposed to other types of injury like back disease. A lot of people know that. So yeah, definitely like the dogs that have injury, I help them recover, and I also hopefully help to prevent some of those injuries from even happening.
And while most of the conversation is about dogs, you do help rehab other animals, right? Like cats and I believe you said earlier bunnies. Is that true?
Yeah. So bunnies, in fact, they get a lot of back injuries. So, unfortunately, a lot of bunny people will know that their bunnies are predisposed to sudden back injury that could leave the rabbit paralyzed, could be really devastating. But bunnies are wonderful, loving little companions. And when that happens, sometimes you want to try to get them back as normal as possible. So a lot of bunny owners will do things like like little jumps with their bunnies to help, prevent that injury. But then also when they get injury, we have treatments that we could do for them as well to get them moving again. But yes, I've treated in my personal career, let me see, I've done horses, donkeys, I've treated a chicken, a bald eagle, bunnies, and dogs, and of course, kitties too.
That is one loved chicken, I gotta say.
Yeah. Yes.
So you've got the injuries. You were mentioning earlier arthritis. What are some of the other common conditions that can be helped through physical rehabilitation?
So when I think of common conditions with physical rehab, it kind of goes into two big categories. And one is orthopedic, meaning that's bone. And the bone things are the number one condition of dogs and of cats who are aging. The number one condition, hands down, is arthritis, which is as a dog or cat is aging, bone is developing in the joints and making them creaky and not moving properly, which could lead to pain and decreased mobility. And then other things that people know about, can be other common one, a cruciate or an ACL tear in a dog's knee. So helping those dogs after that type of injury recover. And then the other big category are things related to the spine and to the nervous system. So dogs that have injuries, again, back issues, just like those bunnies, French bulldogs also are predisposed to something very similar. And they actually get compressed discs and back issues as well. So yeah, it's the bone issues and it's the joint issues, and then it's also the spinal cord.
And again, if you're just tuning in here to Plugged into Long Island on 102.3 WBAB and 106.1 BLI, Alex here speaking with the owner of Strut Animal Mobility Specialists, Dr. Kelly Fishman. And I've got to imagine that there's a wide array of treatments used in animal rehab, right? What are some of them?
So acupuncture is a great tool to manage pain and reduce stress. I also do things like cold laser and then aquatic therapy. That's the one that gets all like the buzz because you see a dog swimming or doing underwater treadmill, where we put them into a big tank and the bottom's a dry treadmill and we fill it up with water. And it's a great way to get dogs moving. For example, after knee surgery, it's a great way to get them moving. So aquatic therapy is a huge one. And then we also think a lot about nutrition, actually, which is kind of funny because when I have dogs that are recovering from injury, or if I have someone who wants to really prevent an injury, talking to them about, nutrition and supplements, what can you do to help prevent these types of injuries and that sort of thing. So certainly aside from those actual physical things that I do, I also talk a lot about the nutrition, which is also equally important.
That cold laser therapy, what exactly is that?
So what the cold laser is, it's a light energy that goes into the joints and is absorbed by the joints and has healing potential. And most people nowadays, laser therapy and cold laser therapy has become really widely accepted and available. And you could even see on Amazon, they have devices that people could buy for their pets. They could do, their red light therapy on their joints. And that just helps to decrease pain. It really is helpful. If I have a dog that has a really sore, tight muscle, I'll do a lot of the laser therapy on that. It's just a great tool for reducing pain.
And you also mentioned earlier acupuncture. Maybe I just have a funky view of animals, but I cannot imagine trying to perform acupuncture on a dog, much less a cat. How does that work?
Yeah. So believe it or not, acupuncture is widely accepted by animals. And I actually think back to when I was first taking my acupuncture classes and learning about acupuncture as a tool. I learned that when the Chinese who use it as their medicine, in ancient China. They had maps of acupuncture points in people, but they also found maps of acupuncture points in cows and in horses from the same time period. So the ancient Chinese, when they were doing this on people, were also using it as a medicine on their animals. So it's actually been used in animals for as long as it's been used in humans. I will tell you that I know from personal, just talking to my friends, not every person loves acupuncture. Some people love it. Some people hate it. And it's the same with dogs. And I would say 70%, 80% of dogs love acupuncture. They fall asleep when they get treatments. They really relax. They benefit from it. And then my cats, actually, believe it or not, more like 90% of cats love it.
Wow.
So yeah. And then horses absolutely really respond to acupuncture quite well.
Yeah, I could see a horse because, you know, they're just so big, but cats, that one surprises me. That one surprises me, I won't lie. So for the company that you run, it is called Animal Mobility Specialists, right? It's not Animal Rehabilitation Specialists. So you guys got to be doing other services besides rehab, right? Like, you know, I have to think like maybe either supplements or preventative measures. What are some of the other things that you guys do besides rehabilitation?
Yeah, so that's, you know, what I was mentioning a little bit before. I really believe that, and I don't really want to call it like a holistic approach because makes it seem like that's holistic. I feel like is a kind of an outdated term. It's more like, you know, functional health or integrative or thinking about the entire body. You can't ask a dog to recover from a knee injury without providing enough of the protein needed to build the muscle. You know, if I'm, as a person, I want to try to build muscle or maintain muscle as I age, I do things in my own diet, like I make sure to get a high amount of protein, for example. And the problem is that most veterinarians that people visit for wellness. So if you take your cat or dog in for their yearly exam, your vet comes in, they have 15, 30 minutes. They go over so many things. They go over, you know, vaccination and wellness tests. They listen to heart and then listen to the lungs. But what happens when I have people come to me is I not only, you know, kind of expect the physical body, but I also spend half my time talking about nutrition. And I really want to make sure that when I'm analyzing the diet of a patient, that they're getting high levels of protein, that they're getting supplements that help prevent, you know, joint breakdown. And that also we're thinking about things like muscle. So it used to be that we used to never consider muscle health in dogs. We didn't even think about it. We never even thought, well, what are the levels of protein that a dog should be getting to prevent muscle loss as they age? And I'm a person, I'm 45 years old. Like I've been told this by my own doctor, but your regular veterinarian isn't going to tell you those numbers. In fact, they may not even know them. So I spend a lot of time just talking about muscle health. How do you maintain muscle as you age? What supplements do we have? Those sorts of things. And we have wonderful supplements nowadays that we didn't even have a few years ago.
So say someone had like a senior dog or a senior cat, really an animal that didn't necessarily need rehab, but they're worried age might be a debilitating factor in the near future, you know, either for mobility or just overall health. What are some of the steps owners could take, you know, very easy steps that could be applied day to day that could help keep their pets active, moving, and healthy in their older age?
Yeah. So what I think of when you just asked that question is someone who just asked me what I think you're asking, which is very similar, which is they had an 8-year-old Labrador and that lab was running around happy, had no problems, not limping, not an issue. But we knew that 8-year-olds in a lab, they're coming up around 10, which is when they start to show signs of arthritis and slowing down. And so, yes, that person wasn't ready to book a rehab session with me because their dog wasn't actually painful, but they wanted to know what can they do now. And I was so happy to get that question, so happy to hear that you asked that right now, because the biggest mistake that I see people do is they don't start early enough. And starting early enough is starting joint supplements and starting muscle supplements. They wait until the dog has a problem visibly. And what we should be doing is thinking about putting our young dogs and even cats on supplements that are joint and muscle supplements to prevent slowing down frailty and arthritis later in life. And I guess if you like, I'm happy to make some recommendations for joint and muscle supplements if you'd like that. But yes, starting now is the best thing you could do.
Yeah, absolutely. What are those recommendations, and where might somebody be able to find them if they were looking for them?
So I actually really like, so think about a joint supplement. I actually think some of the best evidence is for collagen. So specifically, type 2 undenatured collagen. That's really good for the joints. It's good for the skin, and it's good for the coat as well as the joints. It's great. Just decreases inflammation. The other thing I really love, aside from a joint supplement, is thinking about the muscle. And like I said, we didn't always have options for dogs to really max out their protein levels and to really help build muscle. But we've recently found a ingredient called fortitropin. And what that ingredient is, it's naturally found in unfertilized egg yolks. And what it has been proven to do in people and dogs and cats, so 3 different species, we have a lot of evidence showing that it helps to prevent muscle loss associated with aging, and then also muscle loss associated with injury. So I told that person who had that lab that was 8, I said, start them on joint supplements, start them on fortitropin. There's a good product called MYOS PET that has that fortitropin ingredient in it. Start them on those now, because then what's going to happen is, and maybe instead of not seeing me for rehab at 10, I see your dog at 12. And you have a Labrador that can live to 14, 15 and isn't slowing down, can still jump into the car and go to the stairs and go upstairs and go to the beach. Like, that's my goal.
And again, if you're just tuning in here to Plugged Into Long Island on 102.3 WBAB and 106.1 BLI, Alex here, speaking with the owner of Strut Animal Mobility Specialists, Dr. Kelly Fishman. And we are in the 21st century, and it's 2025, and we have telemedicine now. And that is something that you guys offer, is telemedicine custom exercise program. And that's something that Long Islanders could take advantage of. What exactly does this program entail?
So basically, I work with people who have, healthy dogs, and they want to do a dog fitness routine. And I do it over Zoom. It's a lot of fun. And we just basically go set up Zoom in your backyard. You get a couple pieces of equipment, and you do fun things like dog squats and dog push-ups. And I walk you through how to do those things. And then what happens is, on your own, that's your homework, is every other day kind of doing a 5 to 10 minute exercise routine with your dog. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And it is good for people to know, because animal rehabilitation, it's a relatively new field in veterinary medicine, and there's not that many rehab and dog fitness people out there. So certainly working with someone who's not even, local, we can certainly help and keep your dog strong and moving and fit.
Yeah, because you guys are based in the Brandywine Valley, I believe, right? That's over by Pennsylvania, Delaware.
Yes.
So this is something that Long Islanders could take advantage of if they wanted your expertise, and your knowledge to help keep their animals healthy. What are some of the requirements that, someone would need to meet to be able to get this telemedicine?
So, if you have a young and healthy dog that doesn't have any issues, I don't need any other, vet referral or anything like that. I could just work with you one-on-one. Now, if you have a dog that has an issue, so for example, your dog just had a ACL or cruciate repair, and you can't find someone local to work with to do animal rehabilitation, I would just need a referral from your regular veterinarian or surgeon, and they would just have to say, yes, listen, they've diagnosed them with this injury, and I refer to virtual animal rehabilitation.
So they have this referral, they have, their beloved pet, and they now have the knowledge of you and your knowledge. How do we get the ball rolling here? How do they reach out to schedule an appointment?
So I would just encourage anyone to visit my website, strutanimal.com, and they can just reach out to me. There's a phone number on there. You could call or text, or you can send us an email as well. And all that's on my website, strutanimal.com.
And before we end off here today, what are some of the socials that people can follow to keep in touch with what Strut Animal Mobility Specialists is doing?
So Instagram and Facebook at Strut Animal.
And of course, you can always visit strutanimal.com. Dr. Kelly, I would like to thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you, Alex. This has been really fun. And I hope it was helpful. And I hope it opened up a lot of people's eyes to all the great things we could do with dogs, cats, and horses and bunnies and birds, I guess.